On my 26th birthday, I wished that Adrian Thornfield would love me. My best friend sighed, saying, "If you're going to dream, dream big." I thought for a moment and revised my wish. I hoped that Adrian Thornfield would love me to the point of life and death. Adrian Thornfield and I had been married for 2 years, but our relationship was as distant as that of mere roommates. He had never loved me, and now his ex-girlfriend had returned to the country. I was just waiting for the divorce papers from Adrian Thornfield. But then my wish came true. On my 26th birthday, I was on a business trip in Paris. My phone kept ringing nonstop. Relatives, friends, colleagues, business partners, social media platforms, and even membership services were all sending me birthday wishes. Even Adrian Thornfield's personal secretary remembered to text me, but he himself did not. I couldn't focus during the entire meeting. Every time my phone vibrated, I picked it up, only to be disappointed again. My assistant noticed and asked, "What's so interesting on your phone?" "You're not usually like this at work," I replied. "I'm waiting for a birthday message from my husband." My assistant looked a little awkward. "Maybe he's pretending to forget to give you a surprise?" I simply smiled without responding. He wasn't pretending. He wasn't planning a surprise. He had simply forgotten. This project was receiving official support and collaboration at Montmartre, a famous scenic site in Paris. I was responsible for aerial filming. The cooperation went smoothly, and we finished exactly at 1 p.m. I checked my phone. Among the flood of birthday messages, the pinned chat with Adrian Thornfield remained eerily silent. I clicked on it. The last message was from 2 weeks ago. Back then, I had asked him, "Are you coming back to Vienna?" He had replied, "No, I have to fly to Manhattan." Vienna was the luxurious villa district of the Adrian family, built in a prime location at the heart of the city. Nestled beside a river, it was both peaceful and secluded from the urban noise. 2 years ago, when Adrian Thornfield and I got married, Grandpa Adrian gifted us a villa there as our marital home. But Adrian Thornfield rarely returned. A familiar ache gripped my heart, making it hard to breathe. I decided to distract myself by scrolling through social media. The first post on my feed was from Vanessa Laurent. The caption read, "Chapter 1, The Ex-Girlfriend Has Returned." The attached image was a gif of a spinning penguin. Below that was a photograph, a black suitcase, a fair, slender hand gripping the handle, neatly trimmed nails, elegant, well-defined fingers with prominent veins, and on the wrist, a Patek Philippe watch. I had seen that watch before. On the second day after our wedding, it was sitting in Adrian Thornfield's wardrobe at the Vienna villa. A sharp, bitter pain welled up, stinging my nose. But even at that moment, my professional instincts took over. I assessed the composition, the clear focal point, the captivating beauty of that hand. The post had already garnered countless likes, mostly from Vanessa Laurent and Adrian Thornfield's friends and family. I opened the pinned chat with Adrian Thornfield, hesitated for a few seconds, then typed, "Vanessa Laurent is back. Did you go pick her up?" His reply came swiftly, "Not intentionally. I had a dinner with her father today, so we happened to meet." The cursor blinked in the message box, but I couldn't bring myself to type anything. Then he sent another message. "Liam Brooks and the others are throwing a welcome party for Vanessa Laurent at Schloss Schönbrunn. Do you want to come? I can pick you up." I responded, "I'm on a business trip in Paris." His reply was brief, "Sorry, I was careless." I wanted to reply, "It's okay," but instead, I wanted to ask directly, "Do you even remember what day it is today?" Yet the sharp words got stuck in my throat. We weren't close enough for me to ask that. In the end, I simply locked my phone screen. At 3 p.m., my project team surprised me with a birthday cake and fresh flowers. My best friend, Riley Dawson, drove 3 hours across the city to get to Paris. The first thing she said upon seeing me was, "Do you know what Adrian Thornfield is doing today?" I smiled. "He went to pick up Vanessa Laurent." "Stop smiling." Riley Dawson shoved a large bouquet of white roses into my hands. "You look terrible when you smile like that." I lowered my head, staring at the bouquet, silent. "Not just picking her up at the airport. He's throwing a party for her with their old friends at Schloss Schönbrunn," Riley Dawson grumbled, jabbing a finger at my forehead. "Did he at least send you a birthday message?" I kept my eyes on the flowers. These were my favorite, tannic roses. I knew it. Riley Dawson cursed under her breath and wiped away a tear that had just fallen onto the petals. "Don't cry, please don't cry." She pulled me into a tight hug. "I didn't drive 3 hours to watch you cry." I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. "Let's go hike Mont Blanc Mountain. They say there's a sacred church up there." Halfway up, I got a call from Liam Brooks, one of Adrian Thornfield's friends. "Sister-in-law, we're gathering at Schloss Schönbrunn. Do you want to join us?" My phone was on speaker. Upon hearing this, Riley Dawson sneered. Liam Brooks hesitated before continuing, mainly because Vanessa Laurent is back. We all grew up together, and she wants to see you. I panted as I climbed, replying, "So just because she wants to see me, I have to go?" "No, sister-in-law, that's not what I meant. I misspoke. Please don't be mad." I heard some shuffling on the other end. Then a soft female voice asked, "Is she upset?" Immediately after, a deep, familiar voice came through, clearer this time. "No, she's not. Give me the phone." Adrian Thornfield's tone was gentle but carried a trace of coldness. "Liam Brooks doesn't know how to talk properly. Don't mind him." I didn't respond. I just suddenly thought, tonight was the 15th of the lunar month. The moon would be full, yet he still didn't remember that today was my birthday. For the first time, I hung up on him while he was still speaking. The Stephansdom church was quiet. Wisps of incense smoke curled in the air, the murmuring voices blending into the wind. Riley Dawson and I lit incense sticks and prepared to bow. She turned to me and said, "Make a wish." I nodded, clasped my hands together, closed my eyes, and whispered, "I hope Adrian Thornfield will love me." Riley Dawson let out an exaggerated sigh. "You're hopeless, completely lovesick, terminal stage." I chuckled softly, staring at the incense burner. "I have everything, except this one thing." From the moment I first met him at 16, I had loved him in silence for nearly 10 years. I had used my family's influence to marry him, but I could never make him love me. That was the one thing I could never force. Riley Dawson sighed again. "If you're going to wish, at least wish big." I thought for a moment, closed my eyes again, and smiled. "I hope Adrian Thornfield will love me to the point of life and death." Riley Dawson turned her face away, unable to look at me. "I give up on you." The mountain path was bathed in moonlight, clear and bright. Breaking the silence, Riley Dawson said, "Vanessa Laurent is back. What are you going to do?" I shook my head and murmured, "I don't know. Maybe I'll get a divorce." She was silent for a long time before she blurted out, "Is there really no other way?" I exhaled softly, my breath vanishing into the cold mountain air. When I was 16, I transferred to the international school he attended. He was dating Vanessa Laurent back then. They were childhood sweethearts, each other's first love. I paused, my nose turning red from the cold. Back then, all I could do was watch them hold hands and kiss on the balcony. Riley Dawson frowned, biting her lip. "But now, he's married to you. If he still holds hands or kisses Vanessa Laurent, that's cheating." She hesitated for a moment, then continued in a lower voice, "But knowing Adrian Thornfield, he probably wouldn't do that." I gave a faint smile. "Which is why he has to divorce me first." "Can't you be stronger? Be a little more decisive?" Riley Dawson snapped. "I want to." But before I could stop them, tears spilled over. The calm facade I had been struggling to maintain finally shattered, catching me off guard. Pain that was out of reach. Endless sleepless nights. I had tried to convince myself that those feelings didn't exist, but tonight they burst forth like an unstoppable flood. I sat down, covering my face, tears streaming down uncontrollably. 2 years. 2 years of marriage. I had tried my best, but he still didn't love me. What should I do? The cold moonlight mirrored my tears. The clock struck midnight. Today had ended. The next day, I returned to Vienna. The Vienna villa was now empty, except for the housekeeper. Silence filled the space. Seeing me come back, she looked surprised. It had been nearly 2 months since Adrian Thornfield and I last lived in this house together. By evening, the housekeeper received a phone call. Soon after, the streetlights outside the villa lit up. Adrian Thornfield had returned. He wore a long black coat with double-breasted buttons, paired with tailored trousers in a relaxed fit. On his feet were sleek leather shoes with red soles. Tall and striking, he exuded an air of cold detachment. It seemed he hadn't worked today. His hair was slightly tousled, the fringe falling over his forehead. As he bent down to change his shoes, the light cast a shadow along his sharp nose bridge. Following behind him were butler Dorian and secretary Ava. Both were impeccably dressed. Butler Dorian had once cared for Adrian's grandfather before later working for Adrian Thornfield. The first month after our wedding, he managed the Vienna villa. But once Adrian Thornfield stopped pretending to be attentive toward me and moved back to his private apartment, Butler Dorian left as well. A high-status butler like him, why would he stay just to serve me? I stepped closer, catching the faint scent of alcohol. Surprised, I asked, "You've been drinking?" Adrian Thornfield replied casually, "Yeah. Liam Brooks just got a new horse at his ranch. I had a few drinks there." I already knew. Liam Brooks had posted about it on social media. "Do you want me to make you some hangover soup?" "No need, just 2 glasses," he said calmly. "The housekeeper can handle it. You don't have to worry." He lay down on the sofa, resting his wrist over his eyes, a habit of his whenever he drank, as alcohol always gave him headaches. I sat beside him and gently placed my hand on his church. Adrian Thornfield stiffened slightly, opened his eyes, and looked at me. His voice was still mild, but left no room for argument. "There's no need. Go rest." I pressed my lips together. For the first time, I dared to defy him, but I wanted to do this. He gave me a faint smile before closing his eyes again, saying nothing more. He wouldn't argue with me. His attitude toward me was always one of indulgent superiority, like he was dealing with a little sister who needed care, not a wife. My gaze unconsciously drifted to his hand. He had switched to a different watch, but his ring finger remained bare. On the 3rd day after our wedding, Adrian Thornfield had taken off his wedding ring. I had once asked him why. "It's uncomfortable," he had said. How could it be uncomfortable? That ring was custom-made to fit his exact measurements. A month later, I removed mine too, because wearing it alone felt even worse. By now, butler Dorian and secretary Ava had gone upstairs. As I continued massaging his church, I asked, "Why is butler Dorian back?" Adrian Thornfield's voice was calm. "I won't be staying in Vienna much longer." My heart suddenly felt heavy. A dull ringing filled my ears, drowning out everything else. "The company in Portsmouth is stable now. For the next 2 years, I'll be focusing on work there," he said, pinching the bridge of his nose, looking exhausted. "Butler Dorian came tonight to sort out my belongings in the dressing room. You can stay here as long as you like," he continued. "Tomorrow, I'll arrange for someone to take care of you." His tone remained gentle, but his words weren't easy to hear. "You like dogs, don't you?" he suddenly asked. "In a few days, I'll have Liam Brooks bring one over for you." I blinked, momentarily unable to comprehend. "But we're husband and wife. Why do we have to live separately?" Adrian Thornfield didn't answer, but in his silence, I already had my answer. "All right." I stood up, trying to hide my disappointment, keeping my voice as calm as possible. "When are you leaving?" "I'll come back once a week," he reassured me gently, taking my wrist. "I'll have Secretary Ava adjust my schedule. When I return, I won't work. I'll only spend time with you. Okay? Okay?" A cold voice echoed in my mind. Just another duty. I didn't respond, only repeated my question. "When are you leaving?" "Tonight." He reached out and patted my head. "My flight is scheduled for 11 p.m. "Got it." I repeated the words, then, out of habit, reminded him, "Drink less alcohol over there. If you feel uncomfortable, take your stomach medicine. And don't forget your knee therapy sessions." 3 years ago, he had injured his knee while trying to save someone who lost control on the snowy slopes in Switzerland. Adrian Thornfield chuckled, his voice tinged with helplessness. "Seraphina Vale. I'm 28 years old. I'm an adult. I can take care of myself." I pressed my lips together and said nothing more. The chandelier in the living room was dazzlingly bright, yet somehow I felt lonelier than ever. After a long moment, I lowered my gaze. "Well, I'll head to bed." "Seraphina Vale." Adrian Thornfield called my name. His voice was steady, yet carried a trace of guilt. "What happened yesterday? That was my fault. I had a bit to drink, my head wasn't clear, and I didn't notice Liam Brooks calling you." He paused, as if making sure I was listening, then continued. "You don't like Vanessa Laurent. I won't let her appear in front of you again. I won't let her bother you." Yes, I didn't like Vanessa Laurent, but more than that, I didn't like the way he looked at her. "It's true that Vanessa Laurent and I were once in love," he admitted, but that ended long ago. Now, we're just friends. I'm married to you to fulfill my duties as a husband. A suffocating feeling rose in my chest. Duties. Why was that always the only thing he talked about? A week ago at the charity auction in Portsmouth, I bought a necklace. I'll have someone send it to you tomorrow. He reached out and gently tucked a stray lock of my hair behind my ear. I think it will suit you. I hope you'll like it. I smiled and thanked him. That night, I couldn't sleep. Again. The bed in the master bedroom was large, too large. I didn't close the curtains. Moonlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting shadows of towering skyscrapers along the riverbank. The room was decorated in cool shades of gray, its walls elegantly designed. In the corner stood our wedding photo. In it, we were smiling, polite, picture-perfect smiles, as if we were truly happy. That was enough. I closed my eyes and reminded myself, people shouldn't be too greedy. Honestly speaking, aside from the fact that he didn't love me, Adrian Thornfield was a perfect husband. He never betrayed me, and if he said there was nothing left between him and Vanessa Laurent, then there wouldn't be. But still, I couldn't sleep. I turned over, feeling the cold tears trickling down my cheeks, dampening my pillow. I remembered. Before our wedding, he had rushed back only to complete the necessary paperwork. I remembered, on our wedding night, in this very bed, he had held me with restrained gentleness, like he was simply fulfilling a duty. I remembered the way he once looked at Vanessa Laurent under the giant rosemary tree at our high school. His gaze had been warm, full of emotion, something I had never had. People are greedy. Because I had once witnessed him truly love someone, I could never deceive myself. My phone vibrated. A message from Adrian Thornfield. I've arrived. Sleep well. I stared at the words next to his name and profile picture for a long time. Then, lowering my head, I covered my face with my hands. In the first month after our wedding, I had been truly happy. I remembered those evenings walking hand in hand with him down the red-leafed path. I had hesitated before softly calling him, "Honey." It had been 2 years. But I could still remember his expression clearly. He had stiffened, his eyes pausing for a brief second, his delicate brows furrowed slightly, the muscles in his face tensing, as if he were trying to suppress his irritation. In the end, he had simply said, I'm not used to it yet. Since that day, I changed the way I saved his name in my phone, from husband to Adrian Thornfield. The emotions weren't deep enough. Calling him by an intimate name only made everything feel more forced. Riley Dawson once told me, people shouldn't be too sensitive. Sometimes you just have to let things pass. That's the only way to have a peaceful life. But I couldn't do that. I wanted this pearl to be flawless and pure. Yet in return, I was the one getting scraped and wounded. The housekeeper, Adrian Thornfield, arrived at exactly 9 a.m. the next morning. He was highly professional. After discussing the details with the previous housekeeper, Mr. Dorian, he approached me with a tablet in hand, ready to report his duties. The Vienna villa remained the same as before. The only difference was, from now on I would be the only one living here. That was fine, I thought. A lavish riverside villa, and in the end it belonged only to me. Mr. Dorian mentioned, I heard you like white roses, miss, so I plan to redesign the garden outside. He handed me the tablet. This is the architect's design. Please let me know if you'd like any adjustments. I didn't take it. I simply shook my head. Just follow the design. No need to change anything. At 2 p.m. I flew to Newry with my project team. Before takeoff, I scrolled through social media to pass the time and stumbled upon a post from Vanessa Laurent. It was a picture of her new employee ID. The company name read Aurora Technology. Location, Portsmouth. Below the post were countless congratulatory messages from Adrian Thornfield's close friends. I paused for a moment before scrolling further. Another post from Vanessa Laurent. Got a ride on CEO Adrian private jet. I immediately locked my screen. The black screen reflected my face, and it was unsightly. The flight attendant reminded everyone to switch their devices to airplane mode. I decided to turn mine off completely. The 2-hour flight was filled with the droning hum of the engines. I closed my eyes and unexpectedly found myself thinking about our wedding night. That night, Adrian Thornfield had carried me to bed. His kisses and touches were gentle, patient. He seemed to have everything under control. It should have been a sweet experience. But afterward, I only felt suffocated, like there was an invisible curtain drawn between us. The thing I remembered most, and feared most, was the expression on his face. I had been lost in the moment, but he had always been clear-headed. The plane landed. My head spun. As soon as I turned my phone back on, it started ringing non-stop. It was Secretary Ava. "Miss Seraphina, where are you right now?" For the first time, his usually composed voice was filled with urgency. CEO Adrian just had an accident. He lost consciousness and had to be taken to the hospital. He's fine after the checkup, but... He hesitated, and I found myself holding my breath. But what? After waking up, his condition hasn't been stable. He keeps insisting on seeing you. He just fell asleep again. He wants to see me? I was stunned. What do you mean his condition isn't stable? Did he suffer a head injury? Just a mild concussion. His memory and cognitive functions are intact, but... Secretary Ava let out a heavy sigh. But, it seems like there's something wrong with his memory. He kept asking over and over again, "What year is it?" I pressed my fingers against my church, feeling a dull ache. Why does he want to see me? I don't know either, Secretary Ava admitted. The man known for his efficiency and composure was now uncharacteristically flustered. He even asked for permission to clear a flight path to Nuvi, and he had me book the fastest ticket to get there. He called you multiple times, but since you were on the plane, you didn't receive them. And he even asked what day it was, and if the two of you had already divorced. I was stunned. The whole situation was so bizarre that I completely lost my ability to think logically. Did he regret divorcing me? No, Secretary Ava said firmly. I can tell you with absolute certainty he does not want that at all. His voice sounded utterly exhausted. It's best if you don't bring it up. It's a forbidden topic for him now. A heavy silence stretched between us for nearly a minute. Oh, right, Secretary Ava suddenly added. CEO Adrian also asked me whether he had wished you a happy birthday the other day. I hesitated. And what did you say? How the hell would I know? Secretary Ava sounded on the verge of breaking down. I'm just his secretary, not his babysitter. How would I know if my boss remembered to wish his wife a happy birthday? I chuckled at his rare moment of helplessness. Tell him to give you a raise. The colleagues from my project team were waiting for me. I didn't want to keep them any longer, but I still had to ask. You're sure his head is fine, right? I'm sure, Secretary Ava sighed. The earliest he'll arrive is tonight. The latest, tomorrow morning. Because our workaholic boss is about to abandon everything in Portsmouth and fly to see you. You'd better be prepared. 3 hours after that call, I received a phone call from Adrian Thornfield. At the time, I was surveying a filming location. I missed the first call. The second call was about to end when I barely managed to pick up in time. On the other end of the line, there was only silence. I called his name a few times, handing my tablet to my assistant before stepping aside. Adrian, I said, how are you feeling? A low, raspy voice answered. Something about his tone made me uneasy. I'm fine. I'm perfectly fine. He repeated himself as if emphasizing it. Seraphina, I'm better than ever. I froze. His brain really must have been affected. I kicked at a small stone at my feet, trying to analyze the reason behind his call. His safety had always been the top priority. If something had gone wrong with his security detail, someone would have been held accountable. But so far, no news had surfaced, which meant he had already taken care of it. So, the real reason he was calling must have been to warn me, not to tell Grandpa Adrian about the accident. I was about to reassure him when his deep voice interrupted my thoughts. I miss you. My heart skipped a beat. The suddenness of it, the rawness in his tone, sent a wave of indescribable emotions surging through me. The mountain winds howled around me. Yet his voice over the phone was incredibly soft, almost tender. I'm really sorry, he murmured, for forgetting your birthday. That was my fault. I must have made you sad, right? There was something soothing in his voice, as if he were coaxing me, a warmth I had never heard before. Tomorrow morning I'll come see you. A cold wind slipped through my thin coat, but my hands and feet were suddenly burning hot. An uncontrollable joy welled up inside me. No, I ducked my head, burying my chin into the raised collar of my windbreaker, trying to steady myself. Adrian Thornfield's eyes appeared in my mind. Those eyes had never held love. Don't fool yourself. Haven't you been hurt enough already? I repeated those words over and over again in my mind, forcing my heartbeat to calm, forcing the warmth in my limbs to fade. Then I sent a text to Secretary Ava. Make sure he gets his head checked again. Secretary Ava replied with a simple, okay emoji. My assistant hesitantly approached. Is something wrong, ma'am? I exhaled slowly. It seems my husband has been possessed. At 11 p.m., my possessed husband arrived in Neuville. It was an extreme journey. According to Secretary Ava, the moment I hung up, Adrian Thornfield had yanked out his IV and stormed straight to the airport to catch the fastest flight. I thought to myself, that was very on brand for him. Resilient, unstoppable. Spring had arrived, but the air was still crisp and cool. As I stepped out of the elevator, I ran straight into Adrian Thornfield in the hotel lobby. Tall, steady. His figure exuded the strength built from years of discipline. His sharp features were as cold as ever. But this time, there was something different. A suffocating intensity surrounded him. The moment our eyes met, he strode toward me with long, urgent steps, and then he pulled me into his arms, tightly, his face buried in the crook of my neck. His strong arms encircled my waist with such force that it almost hurt. I hesitated, placing my hands on his shoulders, about to say something. But then I stopped. A drop of something cold landed on my neck. I stiffened and realized his entire body was trembling. What happened? I panicked, my voice unconsciously softening. What's wrong? Adrian Thornfield didn't answer, only held me tighter as if afraid I would disappear. I hesitantly stroked his hair, my gaze shifting toward Secretary Ava. He, who had just finished arranging a luxury suite, could only shrug helplessly in response to my questioning look. Outside of our moments in bed, we rarely shared such intimate physical contact. I wasn't used to this sudden closeness. Gradually, Adrian Thornfield's trembling subsided, but his cold nose still nuzzled against my neck, his movements filled with both longing and reluctance. By now, several people in the hotel lobby had started to take notice of us. Shall we go to the room? I coaxed gently, deliberately using the excuse, I feel a little cold. Adrian Thornfield finally lifted his head. His hair was disheveled, his eyes bloodshot, his complexion pale. Upon hearing my words, he immediately took off his windbreaker and draped it over my shoulders. Secretary Ava handed me the room key. CEO Adrian only gave brief instructions regarding his work in Portsmouth. I need to go over the details again. If anything comes up, feel free to contact me. Adrian Thornfield merely gave a soft response before taking my hand and leading me to the elevator. As the elevator ascended, he pulled me closer, wrapping me in a tight embrace from behind, his head resting on my shoulder. He exhaled a deep, satisfied sigh. He didn't say anything else, and I dared not speak either. At that moment, Adrian Thornfield truly seemed possessed. The warmth from his hands seeped into mine as we stepped through the doorway. He swiped the key card, but in the dim light the card slipped from his fingers, landing on the carpet. As soon as the door shut behind us, his large hand cupped the back of my neck, pressing me against the door. His searing breath, mixed with the cool scent of cedarwood, melded into a fervent kiss that overwhelmed me all at once. My mind went blank. Everything truly exploded when his tongue invaded my mouth. My body trembled, and the hands that had been lightly resting on his shoulders instinctively clenched tighter. I tried to struggle, but Adrian Thornfield's firm grip on my face prevented me from pulling away. Sensing my resistance, his kiss only grew fiercer. I was trapped between the door and his embrace, completely engulfed in his scent and dominance. His kiss was possessive and intense, each breath I took seemingly stolen by him. My head tilted back under his force, my chest heaving as if I were suffocating, my eyes misting at the corners. I raised my hand and weakly punched his shoulder in protest. Finally, Adrian Thornfield released me. My legs gave out, nearly collapsing, but he quickly wrapped his arms around my waist, pulling me into his lap. 2 years of marriage, and we had kissed before, but never had a kiss been this passionate, this uncontrollable. My hands tightened around his tie, my breath still unsteady. Just as I was about to speak, Adrian Thornfield tilted his head and placed another kiss on my lips. But this time he was gentler, his kisses filled with longing and deep immersion. He kissed the bridge of my nose, then my eyelids. His warm breath sent tremors through my entire body. Adrian Thornfield. My hands clutched his arms, my voice trembling. Before I could call his name a second time, he gently bit my earlobe. "What did you call me?" His voice was hoarse and low. "What do you call your husband?" My mind felt like it was bursting with fireworks, scattering all my thoughts. I hesitated before whispering, "Adrian." He kissed me again. A teardrop welled in the corner of my eye. He shook his head. "Not intimate enough." I hesitated. Adrian Thornfield bent down and lifted me into his arms, carrying me effortlessly. In the darkness, I looked up at his face, the same cold, refined features, the same perfect lines. What had changed? Was this a dream? He gently placed me on the bed, his fingers brushing across my face. "Do you want to take a bath?" I already did. Adrian Thornfield chuckled softly, then bent down to kiss the tip of my nose. "Then wait for me a moment." I lay on the bed, my mind spinning. Nothing that had happened followed any logical pattern. Everything felt so strange. 10 minutes later, Adrian Thornfield emerged from the bathroom. He was wearing a black bathrobe, his muscular chest still glistening with water droplets. As he approached the bed, I instinctively backed away, gripping a pillow tightly. "Adrian Thornfield," I called out hesitantly. I'm here." He sat on the edge of the bed and reached out his arms. "Come here, Seraphina Vale." I wasn't sure if it was fear or an inexplicable unease. Just yesterday, I had met him. He was still the same composed, refined Adrian Thornfield, always exuding an icy restraint beneath his calm exterior. That was the Adrian Thornfield I knew. Not this man in front of me now, who seemed as if he would consume me with his tenderness. For those who have lived in the cold for too long, the first time they touch fire, they don't feel warmth. They feel pain. Instinctively, I was afraid of that pain. This wasn't something I could possess. "Seraphina Vale." His voice was low, soothing. "I just want to hold you." We remained locked in silence for a long moment. Finally, I slowly moved closer to him. Adrian Thornfield's gaze softened completely, as if he had relinquished all control, placing everything in my hands. Hesitating, I wrapped my arms around his neck. Immediately, he encircled my waist, then shifted, pressing me down onto the bed. I tensed, my emotions tangled in confusion. Our breaths mingled, overlapping just like our chaotic feelings. "Adrian Thornfield," I repeated, my voice barely above a whisper. "I'm so scared." His grip on me tightened. "It's my fault. It's my fault, my love." He held me close, his hand gently patting my back as if to reassure me. "I'm Adrian Thornfield. This is all real." He kissed my neck, then the curve of my ear, not with desire, but with a quiet tenderness. Then he murmured something I couldn't quite understand. "I've confirmed it many times already. This is real. I fear losing you more than you fear anything." His embrace was both warm and safe. The once cool scent of his shower gel turned warm against his body heat. The tangled emotions inside me slowly began to fade. That's when I suddenly became aware of how flustered and unfamiliar this all felt. We rarely had moments like this. "Do we have to wake up early tomorrow?" Adrian Thornfield asked, his warm breath brushing against my nose as he tucked a loose strand of my hair behind my ear. I nodded. A vague, tingling sensation rose in my chest, one I couldn't distinguish as fear or the urge to escape. He seemed to sense my inner turmoil. Lifting my face, he murmured, "Baby, you'll have to get used to this. We'll have many more moments like this in the future." His words exploded in my mind like a firework, turning my face a deep shade of red. The blush spread down to my neck, even my ears. I buried my face in his chest, as if trying to hide. Just moments ago, he was still calling me my love, and now he had already switched to calling me baby so easily. In my dazed state, I thought to myself. His deep, low laughter echoed beside my ear. "Sorry, it's my fault." But I really couldn't hold back anymore. Adrian Thornfield breathed out softly, pressing his forehead against my neck like a man starving for affection. "I wanted to take things slowly so you wouldn't be afraid, but it's really hard to endure." "I don't understand," I admitted honestly. "Adrian Thornfield, ever since you woke up from the accident, you've been acting strange." He looked at me, his gaze deep and unreadable. "Do you like it?" That gaze. I could hear my heartbeat pounding loudly in my chest, ringing in my ears. So Adrian Thornfield could really look at me like that. "I do," I replied. I woke up at 7 a.m., as per my body's internal clock. The bed was empty. I was alone, but my clothes had been brought over. Sitting up, I blinked in a daze. Everything felt unreal, as if it had only been a dream. In the living room, Adrian Thornfield was leaning against the kitchen counter, holding a tablet while talking on the phone. He wore black slacks and a navy blue dress shirt, his hair falling naturally into place. His expression was calm, devoid of emotion. Judging from the conversation, he was likely speaking with butler Dorian. The call ended quickly, only for another business-related call to come through seconds later. I sat still on the sofa, watching him from behind, for a long time. This was the Adrian Thornfield I was familiar with. Cold, distant, as if looking down on the world from above. A heaviness settled in my chest. That familiar feeling of pain, of strange comfort, was oddly safe. So it really was just a dream. Thankfully, it was only a dream. But in the very next second, Adrian Thornfield's gaze suddenly lifted, meeting mine. In that fleeting moment, all distance between us seemed to dissolve. Bathed in the soft morning light, he smiled faintly, said something to the person on the other end, then quickly ended the call. He walked toward me. "Did you sleep well?" Adrian Thornfield perched himself on the armrest of the sofa and pulled me into his embrace, placing a light kiss on my cheek. "I was going to let you sleep a little longer." The familiar scent of his aftershave enveloped me. My hand unconsciously rested on his chest, warm, steady, full of life. I blinked, still not fully awake. "Who were you talking to?" "Butler Dorian." He wrapped his arms around my waist, occasionally pressing gentle kisses against my skin. His voice was unusually soft. "I'm going to redesign the garden at Vienna and fill it with white roses for you." I instinctively leaned back, dodging his kisses, my voice tinged with suspicion. "But didn't you say you weren't going to stay in Vienna anymore?" Adrian Thornfield's expression shifted in an instant, between regret and relief. He held my hand, his voice tender. "I've changed my mind." He lowered his head and kissed the back of my hand. His tone was laced with a hint of mischief and pleading. "I'm a man who breaks his promises. Have mercy on me. Let me come back, all right?" My cheeks and hands burned simultaneously. I stammered, "That's our home. You don't need my permission to return." A sharp ache pricked my chest. I let out a faint laugh, bitter, self-deprecating, just like how you left without my permission. "Seraphina Vale?" Adrian Thornfield pulled me into a tight embrace. "That was my fault. Don't look at me like that." His thumb gently wiped the corner of my eye. "I was wrong. Can you trust me just one more time?" I remained silent for a moment before slowly nodding. He smiled again, his tone gentle, as if coaxing me. "Can you call me Big Brother again?" I looked straight into his eyes and softly called. He lowered his head, placing a light kiss on the tip of my nose. "Good girl, but can you call me husband instead?" I lifted my gaze to meet his. His eyes, usually calm and composed, were now filled with longing, the same way I had once longed for him. Placing my hands on his shoulders, I gently pushed myself out of his embrace. I lowered my head and murmured, "I'm hungry." Adrian Thornfield left at 9 a.m. There were too many matters that required his approval. He had disregarded everything to fly here just to see me, and now his team of secretaries was urging him nonstop. Yet, before leaving, he still made an appearance before my project team, even thoughtfully arranging for 2 catering trucks to serve everyone. Everything was perfectly arranged, flawless. This was the first time he had stepped into my social circle. Before leaving, he repeatedly confirmed the time I would be returning, even offering to arrange a private jet to pick me up. I stayed silent. Since waking up from his accident, both his aura and work methods had grown more refined and shrewd. Yet, there were things about him that I simply couldn't comprehend. Finally, Secretary Ava couldn't hold back any longer. "CEO Adrian, the flight from Vienna to Neuville takes only an hour and a half. I don't think this is necessary." Adrian Thornfield had no choice but to let go of the idea, albeit reluctantly. Before departing, he took my hand, his fingers brushing over the empty space on my ring finger. His voice was low and soft. "I'll handle the matter with Vanessa Laurent." I looked up at him, startled. The night she returned to the country, I attended a dinner with her father to discuss Neptune Port Project. He asked me to mentor her for experience. Her uncle is the largest shareholder of Neptune. After the dinner, her father asked me to take him to the airport. I had no idea when Vanessa Laurent was arriving. I didn't deliberately go to pick her up. A staff member handled her luggage. I only touched it because it was about to fall. My fingertips brushed over the heat on my ring finger. His voice was slow, every word clear. She blocked me from seeing her social media posts. I only found out when Liam Brooks asked me about it later. As for her using my private jet, it was simply convenient for her. She has no place in my business, and on that flight, I didn't see her at all. His gaze darkened. My love, it was my fault. I didn't take the initiative, so you lacked a sense of security. Without that security, you couldn't naturally ask me the things you wanted to know. Adrian Thornfield took my hand, pressing it against his cheek. He rubbed against my palm lightly, his voice soft and gentle. From now on, if you're ever unhappy or dissatisfied, just tell me. If I can fix it, I'll be more than happy to do so. Then he lowered his head and placed a kiss on the empty space on my ring finger. That day, I couldn't recall anything about work. I didn't remember my colleagues' reactions. All I felt was as if I were walking on clouds, soft and light, as if I could fall at any moment. Yet at the same time, I felt utterly safe. During the celebratory party after the project's completion, I received a call from Riley Dawson. The first thing she said was, Adrian Thornfield has temporarily withdrawn his investment from Neptune's project. I froze, at a loss for words. Adrian Thornfield had come to Portsmouth specifically for this project. Aurora had spent nearly a year preparing for the 3-phase investment plan. And now he had stopped. I didn't even want to imagine the pressure he must be facing. There's more, Riley Dawson added, her voice carrying a hint of amusement. Your husband has transferred Vanessa Laurent's position to the North America branch. I remained silent for a long time before asking, What do you mean? Are you seriously asking me that? Riley Dawson burst into laughter. That's your husband we're talking about. But I have to admit, this was a brilliant move. Vanessa Laurent joined Aurora to gain experience, but having Adrian Thornfield take care of her was honestly uncomfortable. After all, their families have had ties for decades. Everyone wants to maintain face. But now? Riley Dawson laughed so hard she could barely breathe. With just one move, Adrian Thornfield sent Vanessa Laurent, who had just returned, straight to North America. The Chu family, what can they say? Nothing. The transfer to North America is actually a great opportunity. Vanessa Laurent studied there for years. No one is more qualified than her. Can her family complain? Of course not. If they do, wouldn't that be admitting that their initial request for Adrian Thornfield to look after her had ulterior motives? She giggled mischievously. Tell me, did your husband receive advice from some wise master? How did he suddenly become so enlightened? I let out a faint hum before saying slowly, Should we visit Stephansdom Church again? Why? It's really effective. I spoke with certainty. After hanging up, I scrolled through my message history with Adrian Thornfield. It had been 13 days since he visited me. Every single day he had texted me. The songs he listened to, his 3 meals, the dull social events he attended. Even stories about a staff member with a funny profile picture, or his complaints about a slow-witted business partner. And never once did he forget to say, I miss you. These past few days, his messages had become fewer. He was probably busy. Ever since he temporarily halted the investment project, I still replied, but my words were brief, almost economizing every letter. Not because I meant to be distant, but because I feared losing more than I gained. As my assistant poured tea, she smiled and asked, The project wrapped up early. Do you want to go back sooner and surprise your husband? A filming location was still awaiting approval, so work had finished 3 days earlier than expected. I smiled. He's in Portsmouth. Vienna was as quiet as ever. Only I remained. At 3 p.m., my flight landed in Vienna. When I arrived at the Vienna villa, I stood in a daze for a full minute. The once stately and antique villa had undergone a complete transformation. The fountain was newly designed, 3-tiered, adorned with blooming water lilies and strands of sapphire blue crystals draped down, reflecting the rippling water like a dream. The garden had been entirely redesigned, now a lush haven of greenery. White roses dominated the space, accented by clusters of pale pink and blue roses, creating a sea of vibrant blossoms that brightened the entire estate. I pulled my suitcase along the flower-lined hallway, stopping at the stone-paved path's end. A wooden swing was nestled in the middle of the lawn. The seating area had been expanded, the pond renovated, and beneath a towering rosemary tree stood a wooden table and chairs. A man sat with his back to me, half kneeling, as he trained a small puppy. It was a Samoyed, barely 6 months old, fluffy and as soft as a ball of cotton. At its most playful age, its tiny paws fidgeted constantly, managing to sit still for just a few seconds before rolling over onto its side. "You weren't this mischievous when I picked you out." The man chuckled, lifting the puppy by its 2 front paws. "But I'm sure she'll love you." The puppy suddenly noticed me and barked excitedly. Sensing something, the man turned around. The moment he saw me, he smiled, setting the puppy down. It wobbled toward me on unsteady legs. Adrian Thornfield leaned back on his hands, his voice carrying a hint of regret. My surprise got discovered too soon." The puppy whimpered at my feet. I crouched down, gently stroking its soft head, such a tiny, precious life. Adrian Thornfield walked over and knelt in front of me. "Why did you come back early?" He wore a loose, lightweight sweater, revealing his collarbones paired with comfortable white pants. Tall, broad-shouldered, his normally cold and composed demeanor softened by the gentle curve of his lips. His smile was like the shimmering surface of a fountain, serene, yet deep, pulling at my heartstrings in ways I couldn't ignore. Lowering my gaze, I softly asked, "Am I not allowed to come back?" "Why wouldn't you be?" Adrian Thornfield cupped the back of my neck, tilting my face upward as he pressed a feather-like kiss to my lips. "Every surprise is meant for you, whether early or late." He picked up the puppy again, lifting its plump little paws toward me. "Come on, say hi to Mom." I leaned back slightly, just as the puppy let out a perfectly timed bark. Under the sunlight, I caught a glimmer of light, reflecting off the ring on Adrian Thornfield's finger. The wedding ring. The very one I had designed myself and placed on his hand during our wedding ceremony, yet he had taken it off just 3 days later. I reached out, gently touching the puppy's tiny black nose. Wasn't Liam Brooks supposed to bring this puppy over? Surprises prepared personally mean more. Adrian Thornfield adjusted his grip, letting the puppy settle comfortably in his arms. "Seraphina, I've missed out on so much before. I know this sudden change confuses you, but we have plenty of time ahead of us. I'll make up for all my mistakes." Both he and the little puppy gazed up at me, 2 pairs of deep, shining black eyes filled with unspoken longing. "Will you give me a chance?" I covered my face with my hands, my voice trembling. "You're too much, Adrian Thornfield." The small, warm, and soft puppy was placed in my arms. "Give it a name," Adrian Thornfield said. I gently stroked its head, thinking for a moment before saying, "Let's call it Lucian." "A great name." Adrian Thornfield scratched the puppy's chin, smiling. "Right, little one?" That little one. Was he referring to the puppy or to me? I wasn't sure. The puppy was soon taken away by its trainer. Adrian Thornfield took my hand. The wedding ring on his finger was clear as day with every squeeze of his grip. "Adrian Thornfield," I was just about to speak when he suddenly pinched my cheek. "Call me something else." "Honey?" I tried to keep my composure and asked, "Didn't you say wearing a ring was uncomfortable?" Adrian Thornfield let out a self-deprecating chuckle. "A person who doesn't cherish what they have will end up embarrassing themselves, just like me. But now I've reached an age where I can make a fool of myself and still feel happy about it." He lifted our interlocked hands slightly. "Let me wear it. If I don't, how else am I supposed to show off that I'm a married man?" Everything felt so unreal. The Vienna villa had changed too much. Adrian Thornfield's garage was packed with cars he frequently used. His dressing room was overflowing with clothes and accessories. The number of servants had increased. 2 new housekeepers, even a chauffeur with a face I didn't recognize. By the time I finished my shower, dinner had already been prepared. Adrian Thornfield was in his study, attending a video conference. Lucian had tired itself out and fallen fast asleep. I watched it through the camera monitor for a long while, feeling my heart melt. My gaze drifted outside, beyond the floor-to-ceiling window, to the vast garden. "Will Butler Dorian be staying here long-term?" I asked. "If nothing unexpected happens," the elderly butler smiled as he lit the candles on the dining table, "I plan to spend my remaining years here at Vienna." Outside, the villa lights shone brightly. From afar, I could hear faint music and the sound of water trickling. I remembered what one of the housekeepers had told me a week ago. Adrian Thornfield had been working from Vienna, personally overseeing the renovation of the garden. I lowered my gaze to my empty ring finger. Ever since suspending the collaboration with Vespera Group, his company's stock had plummeted. Pressure had mounted from all sides, and even grandfather Adrian had been furious. The board of directors had been forced to hold multiple emergency meetings, and yet, despite everything, Adrian Thornfield remained completely unbothered, staying in Vienna as if nothing mattered. Ever since he woke up from the accident, every action of his had been different from before. A soft shawl was draped over my shoulders. Adrian Thornfield leaned down, tilting his head slightly to press a gentle kiss to my cheek. "Have you waited too long?" Everyone else had quietly left. The bright overhead lights had been turned off, leaving only the flickering candlelight and the soft glow from the wall lamps. White roses bloomed proudly on the dining table, while a vintage record player played a soothing melody in the background. Adrian Thornfield took my hand, leading me to the dining table. He pulled out a chair for me before kneeling beside me, taking my hand and pressing it against his cheek. He looked up at me and asked softly, "Aren't you happy?" Adrian Thornfield. I took a deep breath and finally asked the question that had been weighing on my heart. "Ever since you woke up, you've been a completely different person." "In what way?" I looked at him and whispered, "Adrian Thornfield, do you really deserve to be called my husband? Do you truly love me?" At that moment, his expression became incomprehensibly complex. The candlelight cast flickering shadows across his face, making his emotions unreadable. He turned his face away, his jaw tightening as if he were enduring some unbearable pain. "You really—" His voice was hoarse, each word sounding suffocated. "You really might as well have stabbed me straight through the heart." His eyes were red. He buried his face into my palm, his voice trembling. "My love, do you really not dare to believe that I love you?" He kissed the center of my palm, answering the question I had longed to know the most. "I am real. I am the real Adrian Thornfield, and I truly love you." The warmth from his touch spread from my palm to my very core. I instinctively tried to pull my hand away, but Adrian Thornfield held on to it, gently, yet firmly. "This is all my fault." His voice trembled. "My arrogance, my coldness, my distance over the past 2 years, they made you stop believing in me." A drop of something warm fell onto my hand, his tears. I was a fool who didn't recognize my own feelings. That night, when I said I would leave Vienna, I saw the emptiness in your eyes, and I changed my mind. I said I'd return once a week, but I knew that wasn't enough. I realized it a long time ago, but I still pretended not to. And so I kept making mistake after mistake until I drove your love for me to the brink of exhaustion. This is the consequence I brought upon myself. An inexplicable fear surged within me. The tears that had fallen onto my hand mixed with my own, and at that moment I felt as though I was touching upon a terrifying truth. Adrian Thornfield lifted his head. "But I'm lucky. I have a chance to start over." His words tightened something deep in my chest. A ridiculous, impossible thought flashed through my mind, making me tremble. But whether or not he would truly get to start over, "That decision is up to you," I murmured. Adrian Thornfield gazed at me, his voice shaking. "I'm begging you. Give me a chance." The soft music slowly came to an end. The candlelight wavered in the quiet room. I looked down at the tear stains on my palm and whispered, "You say you were wrong. Was it because of Vanessa Laurent?" "No." Adrian Thornfield's voice cracked. "From beginning to end, in this marriage, there was only you and me." I reached out, wiping away the lingering tears on his face, and softly I said, "All right, everything starts over." After that, it felt like a dream. White roses, red wine, cake, and flickering candlelight became fragmented memories in my mind. When the cake was pushed forward, Adrian Thornfield's eyelashes were still damp, and his voice had not yet regained its composure. He knew that a sincere birthday wish at that moment was more precious than any kind of compensation, but he still wanted to do everything in his power to make me happy. "My love, make a wish," he said, lighting the candles on the cake. "Whatever you wish for, I will make it come true." I blew out the candles without making a wish, because my wish had already come true. In the past, whenever Adrian Thornfield held me, he was always gentle and restrained, never causing me any pain. But this time was different. Beneath his calm exterior, I sensed a deep hunger and urgency that unsettled me in a way I had never felt before. Outside, a light rain began to fall. The glow of the green and red maple leaves shimmered through the damp air, casting a melancholic hue over the night. Adrian Thornfield carried me through the hallway and into the master bedroom, where the thick carpet softened each step. He was no longer in a hurry. Instead, he held me on his lap, kissing me deeply, whispering, "Go take a bath, my love." When I entered the dressing room, Adrian Thornfield received a call from his secretary and rescheduled his morning meeting. A shiver ran down my spine as I showered. My thoughts were scattered, and every motion applying lotion tending to my skin felt slow and deliberate, as if I were stalling for time. But he didn't rush me. By the time I stepped out, he had already bathed and was sitting on the bed wearing a black robe. He leaned against the headboard, one leg drawn up, speaking on the phone, instructing the kitchen to prepare truffle soup. My heart pounded. "Why truffle soup?" I asked. He didn't answer, just smiled. I turned to leave, but he caught my wrist, pulling me into his arms. I fell against him, the scent of his body wash warm against my skin. He held my face gently, tilting my chin up before capturing my lips in a deep kiss. Outside, the rain continued to fall, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, like a murmured lullaby in the darkness. I couldn't remember how many times I had cried, my fingers gripping his sweat-dampened arms, choking out his name. "Baby," he murmured in response, his voice low and husky, but his movements showed no trace of hesitation or remorse. The thick carpet beneath us seemed to swallow all sensation. Adrian Thornfield lifted me in his arms, and I rested against his shoulder, letting him kiss away the tears still lingering at the corners of my eyes. He carried me to the window where the maple trees swayed under the misty rain. I wrapped my arms around his neck and softly called, "Husband." A single, scalding tear landed on my chest. Adrian Thornfield buried his face against my neck, his voice hoarse. "Say it again." By the time the night faded, I had drunk an entire bowl of truffle soup. Near midnight, Adrian Thornfield wrapped me in a thin blanket and carried me into the bathroom. I was too exhausted to stay awake, sinking into the plush mattress as he gently fed me another half bowl of soup and carefully applied ointment. At dawn, the rain had finally stopped. He climbed into bed, pulled me into his embrace, and drifted into sleep. I woke up around noon. Adrian Thornfield coaxed me into taking a few sips of pear water before I drifted back into slumber. When I woke up completely, the afternoon light was already fading. My body felt light and soft beneath the silk nightgown. 10 minutes later, Adrian Thornfield came upstairs. He wore a crisp white dress shirt with French cuffs, paired with black trousers. His hair was combed back, revealing his high forehead and deep-set eyes. He exuded an air of confidence, as if he held the entire world in his hands. The thick carpet in the room had been replaced. He knelt down slightly, slipping a pair of shoes onto my feet. When I stood up, my toes brushed against his knee, and I said coldly, "Get rid of all the carpets. Just looking at them annoys me." Adrian Thornfield only chuckled and said nothing. "Are you feeling unwell anywhere?" He leaned in, pressing his face against my cheek, his gaze serious and focused. I answered calmly, "Can you return to your usual frequency?" He laughed, shaking his head. "That's the hardest request of all." When I stepped out of the bathroom, he was standing by the window, watching the lawn below where our puppy, Little Bubbles, was playing fetch with the trainer. He turned to me, smiling as he reached out a hand. I walked toward him. He pulled me into his arms, resting his chin on my shoulder as he whispered, "While you were sleeping, Vanessa Laurent sent you a message asking to meet." I immediately turned to face him. "You replied to her?" He smirked. "I used your phone to decline, telling her you were still asleep." "You know my phone password?" "I tried my birthday," he admitted, nuzzling against my neck. "Luckily, you hadn't changed it." I was stunned, my thoughts tangled, unsure which question to ask first. "I didn't intentionally check your phone," he continued. "I only saw it while feeding you the sweet soup." Adrian Thornfield held me tighter, his voice soft. "My love, I should have handled this myself from the beginning. You shouldn't have to worry about it anymore. I've been too useless." He gently intertwined our fingers. "You don't like Vanessa Laurent," he said, "so I won't let her near you again." In this marriage, Adrian Thornfield whispered, it's just you and me. He played with my fingers, his expression solemn. I once loved Vanessa Laurent. That's the truth. I won't deny it. But we broke up because we weren't right for each other, I blinked and whispered. People say you and she broke up because she wanted to study abroad. Silly girl, do you know why she had to leave the country? Adrian Thornfield held my shoulders, lowering his face until his nose touched mine in an intimate gesture. She bullied a poor classmate in the restroom, and the incident was exposed online. That happened 3 months before we broke up. I lowered my head, my eyes landing on the faint red marks on his neck. I whispered, people also say she was your moonlight, that you haven't loved anyone all these years because your heart still belongs to her. Adrian Thornfield chuckled, leaning in to tap his forehead against mine. You believe everything they say, don't you? His voice softened. But it's my fault, too. Every insecurity you have is because of me. He pressed his forehead against mine, his voice low and tender. Today I want to make everything clear. My love belongs to you, completely. His warm breath wrapped around us as he lowered his head, about to kiss me. I raised a finger, stopping him, arching an eyebrow as I asked, do you love me? Adrian Thornfield smiled softly, his eyes shimmering. I love you, to death and back. On my 27th birthday, coincidentally, I had to go on a business trip to Lucerne City. As I organized my work documents, Adrian Thornfield followed behind me, resting his chin on my shoulder, repeating over and over again, baby, can you not go? I can't, I refused flatly. The production team officially requested a reshoot of some scenes. I'm not famous enough to turn them down. Adrian Thornfield let out a long, resigned sigh. I worked an extra month to speed up my projects just to be free on your birthday. But now you have to work overtime at the last minute. Feeling guilty, I turned around, cupped his face, and kissed the tip of his nose. I coaxed, it's just one birthday. If not this year, there's always next year. His eyelashes drooped slightly, his voice deep. Birthdays are important. I don't want to miss another one. My heart softened. I gently ran my fingers through his freshly cut hair and murmured, last year I cared so much about my birthday because I felt like I didn't have enough love. I hoped that on a special day I'd receive a little more. But now I have so much love and security that birthdays don't seem that important anymore. Adrian Thornfield remained expressionless, clearly unhappy. I stood on tiptoe, wrapped my arms around his neck, and whined, husband, smile for me, okay? I promise I'll come home as soon as I finish work. He turned his face away, but the tension in his expression eased. Calling him husband was truly a foolproof trick. I pushed further. Husband, hug me. He wrapped his arms around my waist. I mumbled, I know you can't resist this. His voice carried a hint of grievance. Then I'll go with you. And so, what was supposed to be an ordinary business trip turned into a private jet ride with CEO Adrian. The reshoots took place at Mont Blanc Mountain. Adrian Thornfield, like a quiet assistant, followed behind me, not drawing attention, but always there to hand me what I needed. When work was done, he used my name to book a car, order food, and reserve a table for dinner. While I was helping pack up the equipment, I reached for his hand. He leaned down and whispered in my ear, you look so captivating when you work. I simply hummed in response. I had heard that compliment from him so many times I was immune. We stood side by side, watching the clouds shift in the sky. I said, let's go to Stephansdom Church together. The church was solemn and serene, as if all the world's noise had faded into silence. As I was lighting incense, Adrian Thornfield suddenly said, I've been here many times before. I froze for a few seconds before understanding what he meant. He was talking about all the times in the past. I once prayed for a prayer bead bracelet for you, he murmured. Back then, I didn't ask for anything else. I only prayed for your safety. His gaze was gentle yet tinged with self-mockery. He chuckled, his deep voice carrying warmth. But humans are greedy. Later, I prayed for something else too. I prayed that you would love me again. I couldn't help but smile. You're not the only greedy one. On my 26th birthday, I had come here and prayed for Adrian Thornfield to love me. A long, lingering dream, filled with love, resentment, and unresolved longing. Now we knelt side by side, offering incense, bowing together before the god. The church bell rang in the distance, its sound stretching through the mist. Incense smoke curled around the statue, emanating a quiet benevolence. I closed my eyes and silently wished, "May we hold each other's hands until our hair turns gray."